Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. And today I'm back with another lovely career mode video. Of course, last time it was the Silverstone Grand Prix, quite a glitched one to say the least, but it was a fantastic race for us. We went really nicely at our home Grand Prix. If you haven't already watched that, I would click off the video now before I give you any spoilers. Give you a second or two, as I'm going to move over for a little bit of a mini little race recap after this one. Of course, we finished a very respectable P8 after starting P15 with a grid penalty, taking us down from our P10 in qualifying. I really enjoyed it. We got a great start, got up into the P10 position, and then we had some fantastic racing, with the Alpha Tauris. I really enjoyed that. Of course, sadly, we had that other incident with Lando Norris. He remains all the way down there in the standings in P10, 2 points behind Pierre Gasly. He's really struggling so far this season. In terms of the front four, we'll have a look at that first. Verstappen won his second race of the season. Of course, the first driver to win a race this season without... Oh, no, sorry, the second driver this season to win a race and take the fastest lap with it. We did that in France. Of course, he won first round of the season at Bahrain. Then he's had 6th and 9th, second, and first. Of course, the last 3 Grand Prix, he hasn't been off the podium. He's had some fantastic results, but that win last time brings him to 97 points, closing in on Valtteri Bottas, who finished P2. Hamilton's P3 drops him even further away from Max Verstappen. That's now 20 points, and if he doesn't get a good result here in Hungary, he's pretty much out of the title fight. Similar for Checo Perez, 66 points at the moment. He's got an absolute mountain to climb there with another P4 last time. He's the only driver from Mercedes or Red Bull yet to have a win. He needs to get a move on with that, because he's yet to have a P2. He's had 3 thirds, a DNF, a 6th and a 4th, and that's left him in P4 in the championship, quite a way behind Hamilton, Verstappen and Bottas. He needs a fantastic result in Hungary to bring him back into the fight. And 2 points behind him is Mr. Charles Leclerc. He's supposedly in the Ferrari McLaren battle, but he's closer to Checo at the moment. Charles has been really consistent, no DNFs. He has scored points in every single race, which I find quite intriguing. So has Valtteri Bottas and Max Verstappen, and so have we. But a really great result so far this season from Charles. 2 podiums. Hopefully he can continue that into the final 4 races of the season. In his Ferrari McLaren battle, he leads currently in P5. Danny Rick is in P6. P5 for him last time brought him 4 points ahead of Carlos Sainz, who finished P7. Those two, though, neck and neck. It's changing race to race. Lando Norris's bad luck continues. Yet to have a top 5. 3 points finishes with 6th, 7th and 6th. It's been a 4 points finishes. He also got a P10 at Imola. Not much of a consolation for the incident with Red Bull. It's been a very poor season for him so far, on 23 points. Quite a bit of drift from his teammate, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, and then way behind Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari. But Charles, if he continues with some good consistency for the final 4 races, he's looking pretty comfortable to take P5 in the championship. We're currently P6. Whether we'll stay there or not, I'm not sure. Of course, we've had some fantastic results with a P5 in Imola and a P1 in France, and then we've just been 8th, 10th, 9th, 8th, with some solid bottom of the top 10 results. Hopefully we can continue that. My target for the end of the season isn't P6, it's actually P8. I think Daniel Ricciardo will probably get ahead of us. I think I've had my strongest races already. We might struggle a bit at Hungary, Belgium and USA, but hopefully we'll be strong in Mexico. Pierre Gasly going along really nicely. He currently has 25 points, and some good results for him could leave him catching up to Sainz and Ricciardo, but I definitely do think that there's a chance he could stay ahead of Norris. If Norris's bad luck continues and Gasly continues with some really good results, we could see that. It'll be interesting to see where he finishes. Maybe a P9 or above. Seb Vettel has 97 minus Yuki Tsunoda. Those two are engaging in quite a lovely little battle at the moment. Let's not forget that Sebastian Vettel's had 3 P11s. I think that's the most out of anyone so far. He's been pretty unlucky with his P11s, just outside the points, but he was close last race. Tsunoda certainly wasn't close. He was in the points, of course. That draws him on equal points with Vettel. That is the battle for 11th. It'd be great to see if those two can continue that into the final 4 races. With Lance Stroll having 2 points, I can't see him adding to that. 3 DNFs so far. His only points finish at Bahrain with a P9. His focus is super low. He's probably not going to score. It'd be great to see, though, if the Alpines or Alfa Romeos, Williams, Haas, or my teammate, any of those can get some points, especially the Alpines. If we have a look at the R&D, Alpine have dropped away. They're chunk off Aston Martin, similar to Alfa Romeo, while Haas are ahead of Williams. So Alpine have got some work to do to catch back up to the midfield fight. Well then, yes, in terms of the driver market, it's looking quite interesting at the moment. Of course, if we look further down the order, Charles and Lando. Now, I don't think Lando will be wanting to join my team at the end of the season. I think I really want to probably get Charles, That was the main target, but if we can't get him, I would have gone for Lando. Not sure how his feelings are at the moment. There's also Carlos. Wouldn't mind a bit of Carlos on our team. And then, of course, you've got... I've been keeping a watchful eye on Yuki Tsunoda, down to 72 focus at the moment, despite that good result last time out. Hopefully he can just regain some bit more focus into the greens and get some more good results, like his teammate, My teammate's doing very well. Robert Schwartzman, 87 focus. For some reason, we've turned into F2 drivers, me and him, with our driver suits. Don't ask. I don't know what's happening. My game's just deciding to be glitched. Mazepin's got very decent focus actually at the moment. He's been battling Latifi. He's recovered from low focus to 75. Giovinazzi, some poor results recently, especially a DNF last time out. He's got only 73 focus. In terms of the rest of the order, Perez not too great with 79. But Sainz is very focused. Leclerc, too. Lando dropping a bit away with that. Not that great focus for Ricciardo and Kimi compared to some of those around them. Vettel going well. And then you've got... This is probably why Bottas is winning at the moment. 90 for Bottas, 88 for Verstappen, and 86 for Hamilton. That could be why the table is as it is. Quite an interesting one, if that is, of course, true. But, of course, Lance Stroll, 52 focus, a very unhappy man, despite his 82 rating. He's had a really good result at the start of the season with P9, sorry, and then other than that, it's just gone downhill. DNFs, not his fault, really. The car just hasn't held up and he's had bad results. Of course, he was heading towards a bad result in Spain, and then it got even worse when he got collected in that bit of a pile-up towards the end with spinning Russell. But he's just struggling, and he's dropping way back from where he should be towards the likes of Williams, Haas, Alfa Romeo and Alpine. In terms of sponsorship, we're actually getting fairly close to that 15. What we have had to have a look at quite recently is a lot of this action in terms of our power unit. 28% on the ICE, we can continue with that. We continue with 22% on the NGUK and 21% on the MGUH. Bit of a mouthful, isn't it? The energy stores at 72%, that will need replacing. We have two options, either 42% one or 0% one. I'm actually going to take the 42% one for this weekend, and then we'll have that one, the 0% one, for the final 3. Then, in terms of the one we're using at the moment, 27% on the turbocharged, that can continue. And somehow, the CE is at 55%. A little bit worrying here because we're at 67 and 65, then 83. I might have to take a grid penalty after practice, but there's no option to take another one. I don't know if you're allowed to. I mean, it's a little bit worrying at the moment because we're at 55% wear on that. You don't want a DNF disaster, do you? So we'll have to be a bit careful over the vicious curbs at Hungary. But we might have to take a penalty. I'll see after free practice or during free practice how much wear it is after that. Because 55% at a track where the curbs aren't that vicious at Silverstone, heading towards a track where the curbs are very vicious and you can get to 67% wear, you don't know. Hopefully it'll might be able to stay with that one. We might have to take a grid penalty. We will just have to wait and see on that one. In terms of the gearbox, though, 37% wear. We've done 4 out of the 6 races. Perfectly fine with that. So then, what I do want to have a look at is facilities and R&D. We've got a bunch of R&D points at the moment. In terms of the different things, the aero, we're getting those 2 upgrades in fairly soon. The chassis department, we're getting a heave damper upgrade in. The powertrain department, we're getting a spark plug upgrade in. At the moment, these require that. And then, sadly, our ice improved materials has failed in the durability department. We are dropping a bit further back in that, but really, for me, it's not crucial as durability. We've been pretty good with durability so far. We've been pretty lucky, no DNFs yet. As we're going to head to an event.
We need you to step in here.
1,000 resource points or experience of Schwartzman. What time in the simulator, we make some breakthroughs with R&D. But this would mean they would not be able to attend a meeting with the durability department. What should we instruct them to do? Simulator or this. They're both very positive. I do want the experience from, because experience is quite important. But really, when you get into further, that's what we get R&D points for during like free practice and stuff. But let's not forget, we have 4 rounds left of the season with Robert. And if he gets an extra 100, that's 400. We don't need a 10% off. I'm going to go with the department.
The department wants me to pass on their thanks for helping out.
That's going to be important for us. We also have quite a lot of money, and we can invest in some stuff. We have got that personnel simulator first one done. Chassis is looking pretty good. Aero is looking pretty tasty at the moment. We could save up for a chassis upgrade, or we could go for an upgrade on something like powertrain or aero. We've got one on fabrication for aero. In terms of that, I think we might go for something with powertrain. Let's have a look at how we're doing the R&D at the moment. Once those spark plugs are in, we do get a few unlocked on here, and I do want to give us a bit of a push in these 3 departments. We can't do much here. We've already got a good upgrade going there. Bit of a tough one, but I do think we would be better investing another one in the powertrain. So I'm sort of like thinking maybe build time could be an interesting one. That might help us. We're going to have to upgrade like all of them to upgrade to Spec 2 and stuff. Fabrication actually might be helpful too. I think we'll go with fabrication because we do want to get a good amount of upgrades in and going. Low cash, I know, but that's quite a while until
we had a
meal.
major issue on the production this week. So the entire development package for this weekend has failed.
Heave dampers failed.
From the R&D screen.
We can get them in for 329, thankfully. I really did want that upgrade in on the chassis this weekend. We can get it in. As you can see, we have got a lot coming in terms of upgrades. In fact, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Hungary. That's going to be important for us. Let's just choose a couple of these. There we go. Let's just continue along then. We've got the front wing main flap and the powertrain spec upgrade. If we have a look at what else, we're still waiting for that one. That's the 25th. That's the next day.
I know we were expecting some requirements to come through, but some of them have failed quality control. We'll need to tell the team what to redevelop via the R&D screen.
I should have invested in quality control, shouldn't I? The rear wing main flap, that was a huge upgrade. It's failed. Another 550 out the bank. And that's not going to be in for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Such a shame. That would have boosted us for the Hungarian Grand Prix. Aston Martin ahead of us now. We've still got 2 more upgrades to bring in. We're actually looking pretty good in this department now. We've got a lovely potential major there. Or a couple of minors. Actually, I think we might get going on the cylinder head. That would boost us for the final 2 races of the season. That would actually be pretty helpful. So we're going to go with that for 1,000. Do not give me failures on these last 2. We don't need that.
The personnel department has requested your input on this one.
Reduce focus for resource points. Oh, God. You're throwing it all at me before the Hungarian Grand Prix, aren't they? Yeah. Trying to drive me a bit insane. It's always Monza that they're practicing driving at. I always find that quite amusing. It's always Monza. Has to be Monza. Don't know why it's always Monza. It just is Monza, isn't it? help out with a few sim sessions. Second driver focus down or nothing. I would like resource points. It's because our regular simulation drivers had a medical issue, having to undergo a surgical procedure. Oh dear. They'll be okay, but without them, we're struggling to keep up with the testing demands to continue. You want to ask Schwartzman to temporarily step in and help him out with some of the sessions. I mean, I don't want to reduce his focus, because he's doing really well recently, but the R&D points is crucial.
Thanks for handling that.
Sorry, Robert. His focus is 79. That's still fine. It's fine. I say it all blasé, like it's fine. It's fine. Totally fine. Let's have a look. We've done that, and we... Oh, right. Let's get that one in for after the Belgian Grand Prix. Another tyre wear upgrade. I know I'm going heavy on the chassis, but it is going to be important, and that is important for us. Tyre wear is always going to be an important thing in the races, especially for Bahrain. Ice improved materials are done. And there we have it. We are actually behind Aston Martin heading into this weekend. Won't show us that until we get into the actual hub for the weekend, but I will show that to you guys. We are behind Aston Martin. Not by that much. It's a shame that we did have that failed rear downforce, rear wing upper flap, but that's life, isn't it? You know? We're going to hopefully be able to bring it back for the last 2 races of the season and get some really good upgrades in for them. But it looks like we're going to be a bit disadvantaged compared to those around us this weekend. It'll be a bit of a challenge, but there's nothing like a good challenge, is there? You've got to have a bit of a challenge in F1, and that's what we're going to face in this race weekend. Right then, Hungary qualifying up now. We're going to get into, hopefully, what will be a bit of a nice quali session than what we've had so far. We've had quite a few difficult quali sessions. I'd like something a bit more relaxed in Q1 for once. And no rain would be appreciated. Absolutely no rain would be very much appreciated for the race weekend, because it's just so much rain. You know, we've had rain at Imola, that affected us there. We've had rain, where else we had rain? We had rain in Austria quali, France quali, last time out at Silverstone quali. We just haven't had it at Bahrain, which is pretty expected, and Spain, and then we had a wet race in Spain. So there's only been one race weekend so far where we haven't had any rain, and that's been Bahrain. So hopefully there's no rain, because it seems that Bahrain is the only one without rain, and it's the only one with rain in its name. There you go. I thought I'd just confuse you all before we get into qualifying, but that's what we are going to do in a second. I'm going to show you guys in the hub for the race weekend where we are on a lovely little graph. But before we do that, if you haven't already, guys, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I know it's a bit of a pest, but it really does help the channel out. So don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the videos. But let's get into the graph for the R&D. Well, as usual, before we get into quali, your race chart. In terms of Red Bull versus Mercedes, the gap has pretty much stabilised. No real changes there. But Ferrari have shot back up again away from McLaren. Don't be surprised if we see them fighting Red Bull and Mercedes this weekend, because the gap to Red Bull, from Red Bull to Mercedes, is pretty much equal as the gap to Mercedes to Ferrari. So hopefully Ferrari can get into the mix in the top 3 again, maybe for a podium. McLaren looking decent in P4, no real incline there, pretty steady. They've dropped away from Ferrari in a sense, but they're still very comfortable for 4th, with AlphaTauri not gaining much. They remain in 5th. We and Aston Martin have caught up to them. Aston Martin minimally ahead of us, but actually the gap between us is nothing. So it's going to be just pretty much exact same car heading into the weekend in terms of overall performance. Then Alpine back ahead of Alfa Romeo by nothing, like us and Aston Martin. Nothing to separate those two. It's going to be a close one. And then Williams back ahead of Haas, but again, very close there. I wouldn't expect to see it just come down to how good the driver is, but also, yes, it's going to come down to how good they are in certain departments. Like, they're going to be faster down the straight if they're good in the powertrain department, but you get the point. But really interesting with the top two. Mercedes have only been ahead of Red Bull for one weekend, and that was round 3 in Spain. Just so we all know, in terms of the weather, it's no rain for quali. There will be some rain in the race, not much at all. So whether we'll be getting off the slicks or not, I don't know onto the inters. You might be able to say on the slicks. It will be slippery, but just a teeny bit of rain. Just in the middle of the race, just put in a teeny bit of rain, a little bit for a few minutes, and then it'll just go back to being normal. So hopefully we won't have to go onto the inters. And maybe, if you're not running well, you can take the risk of staying on the slicks. And if everyone else is putting on the inters, and that might actually help you later in the Grand Prix. But now we're going to get into some quali action. Here we are then at Hungary for some qualifying. Nice for it to be sunny outside, you can see that. And of course, yes, it is a sunny qualifying Q1, Q2, Q3. Of course, start out in Q1. Whether we'll make it past that, I don't know. We've been struggling a little bit for pace this weekend compared to what we had at Silverstone. The race, there will be some rain, not that much though, so no rain in quali, that's a nice change. The race, a little bit of rain, but it's sort of towards the end of the Grand Prix and for like 10 minutes. So whether it will be too wet to stay on slicks or not, I don't know. And if it is just borderline, we're going to see people staying on slicks. We could get some incident spins and might be fearing for ourselves staying in the right direction, which is not exactly what you want. Alonso and Ricciardo are heading out at the moment. Danny Ric on his lovely softs. Same for Pierre Gasly and then Fernando Alonso. We are going to get a lovely set of softs on for the moment, and we are going to get out on track and hopefully set a decent lap. First lap probably a bit of a finder as usual, and then we're going to hopefully punch in some decent quality lap times to help us maybe get out of Q1. Well then, here we are at the Hungaroring for our first flying lap in qualifying as we head towards the start of it. Hopefully we can get a decent result in quali today. Carlos Sainz, 1 minute 17. Oh, we will be getting into 1 minute 16s, I'm pretty sure, with the Red Bulls, the Mercedes, and maybe his teammate Charles. We begin our first lap here. Of course, we are taking another component change. I decided that in free practice, confirmed a decision that was pretty much going to have to happen. So we are taking a fresh CE for this weekend again, so that we don't end up having an engine failure during the race because I didn't change it, because that's never a good thing to have. And because, of course, we are taking a new CE 5-place grid drop here as we are trying to attack the first of the 3 sectors in quali at the moment. It is a difficult track, it's not exactly that easy to drive. I can see why it's rated as hard, because of the curves are so vicious, so easy to dip yourself into a curb and then be round, spinning all over the place. And that is probably the most difficult part about this track, is the curves. It's got some hard braking zones, some difficult corners where you've got to really risk it and put it on the line. So it's not the easiest of tracks. In terms of the track itself, isn't really that difficult. It's like medium, I'd say. But once you add in the curves, it's definitely a hard track. As we come towards rounding our first lap here in quali, it will be a finder. It's not the best. It is quicker than Latifi though. Bit slower than Schumacher and Kimi Raikkonen, who sat in the Alfa Romeo. In terms of actually Kimi Raikkonen, will he stay for next season? We're getting to know probably about retiring drivers fairly soon, probably before Cota and Mexico. Checo Perez, his home race will be in Mexico. He goes quickest. In terms of what I usually do, I usually talk about what we got from quali in terms of free practice in terms of R&D. It went pretty well actually for my teammate Robert. He managed to take 300, which is the most he's taken all season, which is really nice for him to see that he's improving as a driver in terms of his race results, but also helping us out more in free practice. A little bit sloppy this lap through the chicane, cost us on exit and so on, We're not doing that great at the moment, trading times as we were last few laps. But yeah, my teammate, really great to see him going from 100 to 200 from free practice. Now up to 300. We struggled a bit, only took 400 today. Usually I take about 500 or 600. That's pretty much what you normally get, but not exactly what we wanted. Rounding out the lap. P10, and there are still potential improvements. George Russell up in P10 there, actually. Might have been wrong. We are P11, but really, really decent compared to what I thought we might have struggled on that lap there, actually, after our mistake. There's still more time to be found for us here. It was a decent first sector, but it just fell apart at the chicane, cost us about 3 odd tenths. We're going to push through there again, but yeah, nice to be in a dry quali. We haven't had one fully dry for a while, as that is not the line through there I usually like to take. Generally not, at least, but a much nicer line through there. Verstappen, 1 minute 16.9. We are in the 1 minute 16s. Nice to see. Driver's going pretty nicely round here. And that's Charles Leclerc, who's gone quicker, 1 minute 16.8. The first driver into the 8s, which is really nice to see. Ferrari really up there this weekend. You know, we saw it a bit earlier in the season in terms of the R&D. It continues again, and hopefully they might be able to equate that to a podium fight in the race. We're going to round out this one a little bit quicker, and that's actually enough to put us P16 ahead of George Russell and behind our teammate, but not too bad for a start in quali. 3 laps, Bottas goes into 1 minute 16.6. Lovely lap from him there, showing why he is championship leader. What we are going to do, though, is we are going to return to the pits this lap. We're going to have a look at the order and then prepare for a new set of softs to round out the first part of qualifying and hopefully be able to consolidate a good position. We are currently in the drop zone at the moment, but we might be able to improve that. My teammate Robert isn't at the moment. We're going to return to the pits and then analyse the order. Well then, here is your leader at the moment, Valtteri Bottas, the quickest man on track, 4 tenths quicker than his teammate. Pretty surprising there. Purple 1, purple 2, purple 3 in the sectors. Absolutely dominant from the Finn. He is, of course, ahead of Max Verstappen and ahead of Lewis Hamilton. If he can continue that through Q2 and 3, then he's going to have quite a good position to start the race. Charles Leclerc, P2 for Ferrari. Ferrari P2 and 5 so far in quality. They're showing they've got pace to fight with the Red Bulls and the Mercedes this weekend, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them fighting for a podium. That would be fantastic. Maybe even a race win. We know they've got similar pace. You know, it is going to be that top 6 for pole, and that's going to be really interesting in today's qualifying session. Then you've got the 2 Red Bulls, Verstappen and Perez, not separated by much. They're just pretty solidly in the middle of all this battle this weekend, but we know that Verstappen does need to be getting up to Bottas. Can't let Bottas gain any more points on him unless he could be drifting away from the title fight. And Perez needs a good result this weekend if he wants to try and catch back up to the front few. Let's not forget that he's only just ahead of Leclerc. If Leclerc finishes ahead of him in this one, in the race this weekend, then he could go back ahead of him in the Drivers' Championship. And if Ferrari can sustain this, then we could actually see Leclerc fighting with Perez for P4 in the championship. But that's, of course, later on. Sainz P5, really solid from him, with Hamilton down in P6. The Brit struggling and drifting further away. More likely for him to finish P3 in the championship. Danny Rick and Lando Norris follow 3 tenths off the top 6. Norris a little bit off his teammate. Surprising to see Danny Rick in front. He's had mixed results. Sometimes he's either really up there or he just fizzles out and doesn't have that great a result. Those two looking pretty solid. They're just sat in no man's land. Then Fernando Alonso and Sebastian Vettel ahead of Tsunoda. Really interesting there. No Pierre Gasly in the top 10, but Alonso P9, despite Alpine having a pretty rubbish car in the R&D. Vettel P10, pretty solid. And same from Yuki Tsunoda to be P11, the young Japaneseman well ahead of his teammate, Pierre Gasly, who's down in P13. Gasly's had a nightmare of a start to Q1. Wouldn't usually see him there, usually see him in the top 10. So certainly hasn't been a good start for him to Q1. He's behind both Alpines, who are significantly further down the order. They're going well, considering where they are in terms of a car. Lance Stroll, P14. Not too bad for the Canadian, is it really? Judging that he's got that poor focus at the moment, not too bad to be P14. The end of the midfield fight, but certainly not dropping back into the rest. As it stands, Giovinazzi and Schwartzman are safe. Then we've got myself in the drop zone ahead of George Russell, Kimi Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher, Nicholas Latifi, and Nikita Mazepin. That's actually decent from Schumacher there. He's pretty close to the back of Raikkonen. Raikkonen certainly struggling in quali here. Plenty of drivers need to go again. I would probably say from 9th down to go again, maybe. I don't think... Maybe actually 11th down, but definitely the top 8 don't need to go again, because it's quite a way down to these guys at the bottom. But yeah, we've got definitely in the drop zone at the moment Mazepin, Latifi, Schumacher, Raikkonen, Russell and ourselves right at the top of it. Red in the bottom right corner means we're going to be going out for our final lap very soon on a new set of softs. We're going to get out there and hopefully get out of Q1. We're going to need a decent lap though, because everyone else is going to be improving and we need to improve by quite a chunk. Well then, here we are beginning, well, nearly beginning our final lap, well, final 2 laps it might be, as the first few drivers start to go out. Hopefully we don't get into too much traffic here. A McLaren has decided to start their lap, or were they coming into the... They've come into the pits, so I don't know why they've gone for another lap, but fair enough. We should slot in nicely here, yes we do, to begin this lap. We're going to go again pretty much straight afterwards. So really, this lap isn't that important, and I'm saying that really because we've just fluffed up the first sector. I'm really inconsistent round here. We found consistency at the British Grand Prix. We had okay consistency at times in the sort of Austrian Grand Prix, and then we had great consistency in the French Grand Prix. I've been really finding that with the car, but really good exit off there. If we can not fluff up this chicane, then we can get off nicely onto the next part, the S's sort of section here. Every track pretty much has an S's, or at least most of them, especially if you name Suzuka or Saudi Arabia. And now, really aggressive off the exit there. This is looking pretty nice in terms of a lap here in quali. We still no need to finish it off, and so much can happen around the final 2 corners in terms of gaining and losing time here at Hungary. They're long ones, and if you get your line wrong, like we have sort of done here, it can be costly. We're going to improve. That's enough to send us P15 out of the drop zone. That pushes our teammate down into it, but they are going to be going again. They've started, well, I think Giovinazzi might have started his flyer, or he's coming to the end of the lap to begin it, but they are certainly going again and hunting for a faster lap here, as we are very, very messy in the first sector. It feels a little bit messy around here as we try to attack it as much as we can up this long right-hander. We're not going to get the exit we want. Really, really pushing here. I really am throwing everything at it, and that's us over the curbs. You lose momentum, you lose exit, but somehow we go green on the delta. Don't know how there, because it felt really awkward. That's right, Jeff, just 30 seconds left in the session. And we are going to come to finish this lap. It's not going to be quicker, and we're going to be relying on our first of these 2 laps we've done, heading out on this set of tyres, to put us somewhere decent in quali. George Russell has knocked us out of quali there. Someone else has gone quickly. We're going to come over the line here. What a shame. Well, then Q1 here, and we are out of qualifying in P20. So much improving there. We do have a grid penalty. That's not from an incident I had. That is sadly because of our component change. We'll go to the top first and make our way down to the bottom bit. Of course, the top doesn't really matter that much at the moment, the top 10, because it's going to be shaken up and around. But Bottas quickest from Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris. As I was saying before, Ferrari really up there. P2, P6, they're showing their pace. They both just did 1 lap, and they're already in the top 6. Both of them ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc ahead of Verstappen and Perez too. in terms of the title fight, Bottas looking pretty good over Verstappen, and if Hamilton stays all the way down there and is struggling, he will pretty much be out the title fight by the end of this weekend. Perez needs a really good weekend. He's, of course, through, but he's got a lot of work to do in Q2 and Q3. He probably needs pole and some DNFs for Bottas, Hamilton, and Verstappen if he wants to get back into the title fight. But Ferrari also looking really decent. They'll be fighting for pole and probably the podium in the race. That would be great to see. McLaren have jumped into the top 8. That is because they did decide to go again, and because of that they improved. And it's actually quite a statement that Leclerc is still ahead of Norris and Sainz is still ahead of Ricciardo when the McLarens have done 2 laps and gone again when it was quicker out there. Hamilton struggling down in 8th. Gasly improved to P9 where you'd expect him to be, with Vettel P10. Pretty solid from the German. He's our rival and he's looking a lot stronger than us this weekend. In fact, Gasly's in no man's land there. He's about 3/10 off Hamilton, but 3/10 quicker than the midfield fight, or the main midfield part of the fight in the midfield. Yeah. Fernando Alonso, P11. Pretty good considering Alpine are not that great in the R&D. We're about where Alfa Romeo are, but they're certainly well ahead of them. Yuki Tsunoda, P12. Ocon, P13. So the Alpines sandwiching Tsunoda with an okay quali. His focus will, of course, be putting it all into Q2 to try and get through into the final part of quali. Lance Stroll is P14, the bottom of that midfield fight, probably because of a lack of focus. Kimi Raikkonen, the highest of the 2 Alfa Romeos, despite a disappointing first lap. 1:18.184 gets him out of quali in P15. And then once again, my teammate Robert Schwartzman escapes qualifying in P16. Really great work from him. Great to see him out of Q1 again. Hopefully he can continue pushing on through this end of the season and get some decent results, maybe even a points finish. That'd be great before we get some driver transfers at the end of the season. Antonio Giovinazzi is out of qualifying for Alfa Romeo, just out there in P17. Pretty solid for him. It's not that bad. It's not disaster. George Russell ahead of Mick Schumacher. Nice to see those two really close. Look how close we were to Schumacher, but frankly, it doesn't matter. We'll be starting last in the race with that engine component change. That gives us a 5-place grid drop. So we will be starting at the back of the grid, behind the likes of Latifi and Mazepin, Schumacher and Russell. And we will do it all again, like we of course did back at Spain, I do believe it was. But we have lost, of course, George Russell and Mick Schumacher. Those two really close. Probably the better of the 2 drivers at their teams. And then Latifi and Mazepin fairly close. Those 2 fighting at the moment from their teams. But I have to say, Russell and Schumacher coming along really nicely, those 2 drivers. And Yuki Tsunoda in this. They'll definitely be probably getting some bigger teams as we get into further seasons of this. But the 5 drivers we've lost from Q1, Giovinazzi, Russell, Schumacher, ourselves, Nicholas Latifi, and Mazepin. Both Haasas, both Williams, ourselves, and an Alfa Romeo. That is it for Q1 then. We don't get to see the grid order until the race, so you guys got a bit of suspense of what's happening with the Mercedes Ferrari versus Red Bull battle. You're going to have to wait for that, but I'm sure it's going to provide some good entertainment. If you guys have enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I quite enjoyed this quali, really pushing quite a lot. We certainly don't have the pace this weekend, but it is going to be, hopefully, an interesting race with that bit of rain. And then Ferrari fighting at the top with Red Bull and Mercedes. I'm really going to enjoy that battle at the front. I'm hoping that Charles and Carlos can get stuck in for the podium. But we're out of Q1. We will probably start from the back of the grid unless Latifi and Mazepin have grid penalties due to component changes like us. That is it for Hungarian quali. So I'm going to catch you guys next time for the race, and have a great day.